welcome to another video, and welcome to a really quick introduction to Thomas Hardy's 12th novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Now, this video, in case anyone doesn't know, is for a read-along that we are doing where we are reading all of Thomas Hardy's novels in publication order. We are up to novel number 12. I'm only saying this because I have posted videos about Tess of the D'Urbervilles before. If you are a student who is studying Tess of the D'Urbervilles, don't watch this video. This is not for you. This is really short. You might find something interesting in it, but there are lots of other great videos about Tess of the D'Urbervilles on the internet. But this is just an introduction for people who are doing our read-along. If you have never read Tess before and you want to join in with this, you don't need to have joined in with the rest of the read-along. Links to all of the discussion groups that we've got on Discord is in the description box below. And you can just join in whenever you want. But we will be reading Tess in May. Like, what month is next month? I've completely forgotten. We're reading Tess in May. A few years ago, I think it was like a monthly wrap-up of books that I had read, I mentioned the fact that I had read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, and then I reviewed it. And in reviewing it, I explained the plot. And I remember the comments on that video that lots of people said to me, "Thank you for explaining the plot," because no one else had done it on a video. And that's not true. I'm sure lots of people have actually explained the plot of Hamnet on a video where they've been talking about it. But it kind of reminded me that when we're talking about incredibly popular books that everyone kind of reads or knows, or, you know, by through kind of osmosis, people kind of know the plot of, we can have a tendency to not explain the plot. So I will be kind of introducing the plot, but I also don't want to spoil it because I feel like it's really easy to spoil Tess by just explaining absolutely anything. In fact, I've seen some book covers which spoil Tess, but I will be, for the purposes of this video, just explaining a tiny bit about the plot to give you a bit of an idea so that you're not going in completely in the dark, but there won't be any spoilers. Now, this book starts off with Mr. Derbyfield, not D'Urberville, Derbyfield. And he is told by someone else in the town that the Derbyfield family, who are not at all wealthy, they're not at that point incredibly poor, but they are quite poor. And he's told that the Derbyfield family are actually descended from the d'Urberville, who are a noble aristocratic family. And he decides to celebrate this by getting drunk, and things go badly wrong. Is that all I can explain about the plot? Essentially then what happens is he decides to send his daughter Tess, who's the eldest daughter of the family, he decides to send her off to meet the d'Urberville family, to claim kinship, to say, well, we are related to you in some way, can I have a job? And so she goes off and she meets Alec d'Urberville. Feel free to boo if you wish. He's manipulative. He's deceitful, he's not a nice man. I think Tess doesn't really know much in the way of men. She doesn't understand men at all. She doesn't understand, famous quote, that there is danger in men. And she kind of, I don't really know if she likes him to begin with. She's maybe enamoured with him. She's maybe kind of a little bit dazed by him, but I don't think she really likes him. And then a situation occurs, and everything goes downhill from there. There is another man involved at some point, who I've got to be honest, I also don't like. Not a fan of him. I know some people are. His name is Angel. Oh my God. So predictable. It's not a love triangle though. Well, sort of, that is not. I mean, anyway, tragedy, much tragedy, much tragedy. When I was looking up contemporary reviews, I'm going to look down at my notes now, I read a really great description of the novel. So this is the description that I found within a review. It says, Mr. Hardy's story is founded on a recognition of the ironic truth which we all know in our hearts and all are forbidden to say aloud, that the richest kind of womanly nature, the most direct, sincere and passionate, is the most liable to be caught in that sort of pitfall which social convention stamps as an irretrievable disgrace. It is the unsuspicious and fundamentally pure-minded girl in whom lie the noblest possibilities of womanhood, who is the easiest victim and who has to fight the hardest fight. I really like that review, and I think for that last line, the fact that it is this kind of woman who has to fight the hardest fight, and that's very much what Tess has to do all the way throughout this book. The other contemporary reviews, generally it was kind of well accepted. It was called Hardy's best novel. And because it was released just before Christmas, one reviewer referred to it as a grim Christmas gift. They said if you wanted to buy the kind of complete novels, all volumes, and sit down and have a nice Christmas with some lovely descriptions of the countryside and nature and all those things you've come to expect from Hardy, you're in for a grim Christmas, they said. And other reviews have said, Mr. Hardy's style is here, as always, suave and supple, although his use of scientific and ecclesiastical terminology grows excessive. I don't really remember that much in the book, but anyway. Another review said Tess of the D'Urbervilles is well in front of Mr. Hardy's previous work and is destined, there can be no doubt, to rank amongst the achievements of Victorian novelists. Lots of people thought it was the best book of the entire Victorian period. I mean, they were literally saying this in the Victorian period, so how much, hindsight could they have? Another review said, while we cannot at all admire Mr. Hardy's motive in writing this very powerful novel, we must admit that he has seldom or never written anything so truly tragic and so dramatic. Not everyone was a fan, although there were no reviews that I could find that outright hated Tess, but one did say, it matters much less what a story is about than how that story is told. And Mr. Hardy, it must be conceded, tells an unpleasant story in a very unpleasant way. I mean, that's high praise indeed. In terms of adaptations of Tess, there have been many adaptations. Too many to mention. There's been lots of stage adaptations, lots of TV, lots of film, lots of radio adaptations. Out of all of them, my favourite is still the 1998 miniseries with Justine Waddell as Tess. In terms of audiobooks, there are, again, a lot. Too many to mention, so many. I am not sure. I think the only one that I've listened to is the one by Sian Clifford. But I did find a few others, and I know that they're great audiobook narrators. So we've got Martin Shaw again, Simon Vance, who does so many, and Imogen Stubbs also does one as well, which I had a quick listen to and it sounded really good quality. But I do want to just warn you, there are a lot of abridged versions of Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I looked on my library app, and I looked on Spotify as well, and I looked on BookBeat, and there was quite a few, like a lot, abridged versions and radio adaptations as well. So I would just caution you, obviously if you want to read an abridged version you can, but just be very careful if that's not what you want. You can probably tell because the abridged versions are about 2 to 4 hours long. It's a long novel. If we have a look at some of the editions, which I have, I've got varying different sizes. They go from very big to very small. And I have this tiny little collector's library one, which I think has been gnawed by an animal at some point. But I bought it secondhand, so it wasn't me, and I don't have any animals in this house. So that's a cute little tiny version. I've never actually read this version. The version that I bought myself is this one, which is actually one of my favourites, and I really like this cover, which has Stonehenge on it. If you've not read it, it's relevant, but I've had this since I was about, it's got my full name written on the inside, including my middle name for some reason. I think I must have owned this since I was about 15. I had purchased for me this Penguin Cloth Classics edition, which has Ears of Corn. I don't like the colour of this, and I don't, but it was a gift, so thank you very much. But actually my favourite find was this one, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And this I found in a National Trust bookshop, and there was a few different books of this edition. There was actually one, I think was it Jude or one of the other books as well, and I didn't get it, and I don't know why, and I really regret it. So it cost me £5 because, or did I pay £10? You just have to donate an amount, and I thought, well, this is great. But this is published by Cranford Collections, and I think they're an American printer. But this is, it's a beautiful cover. I think it's really beautiful. And the pages are very, I don't know why I'm telling you this, because you can't, but it's really soft. Feel the soft pages. They're so soft. Okay, I thought I'd do that nice little cheery interlude before we do the misery scale. The misery scale is my interpretation of each Hardy novel in comparison with each other as to how miserable they are. Now, in the early days of this read-along, some people questioned me on some of my very low scores, and I did have to say, Tess and Jude, okay, we know we've got Tess and Jude coming up. If you don't know, if you've not read them, you might not have realised why we had to have some of the books, because we're comparing them with each other, quite low on the misery scale. So Tess, I think 4.5, possibly a 4.75. This is out of 5. So 4.5 to 4.75. I think just prepare yourself for the misery. So that's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. If you haven't read Tess before and you are joining in this time, it is miserable, but you are in for a treat, because I think it's one of Hardy's top 3 best novels, along with The Woodlanders and Jude. It was the second Hardy novel I ever read. Everyone says don't start with Jude because Jude is the most miserable, but I did, and I still carried on reading all of Hardy's other novels. So if you've read Jude and you haven't read any of the others, Tess is ever so slightly less miserable than Jude, maybe. So if you were put off by the misery of Jude, but you still like misery, I don't know. If you don't like misery, maybe give this one a skip. But that is Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Do let me know in the comments if you will be joining in with our read along, if you are reading all of the other books or just this one. Let me know if you've read Tess, what you think of it. Did you agree with the contemporary reviewers? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.